everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for
Hope
having
everyone
me.
enjoyed your food. Yeah? Okay, great. If we haven't met yet, my name's Claire Mills. I'm the DC Campaigns Manager at the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. And thank you all for joining us for our last part of our Washington Gas Exposed series. So this is a three-part series that's all about educating folks about what Washington Gas and their product is actually doing to us as people, to our planet, to our wallets. So we already did 2 sessions online, one that talked about the planet impacts, the climate impacts of natural gas, and then we did a section where we talked about the impacts of gas bills on DC residents. So if y'all are interested in learning more about those topics, those recordings will be online, and we'll send out follow-up information to everyone, so you can check those out. But tonight, we're here to talk about how burning gas in your home is making you sick. There's really negative health impacts of burning natural gas, or as we call it at CCAN, methane gas, in our homes. And tonight we want to talk to you all a little bit about that and a little bit about what we can do to help protect our homes, ourselves, our families, and also change this system that we have here in DC and make it better for everyone. So that's what we're going to do tonight. This is not a big formal thing, so if y'all want to get up, grab some more drinks and food, please feel welcome to do so. And I'm going to pass it off to Tanae from the DC Lead and Asthma Coalition to get us started.
Thank you, Claire. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanae Lewis. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a Ward 7 resident, born and raised here in DC, Ward 8. I currently live in Ward 7 right now. And I am a leader on the campaign to reduce volunteer leader on the campaign to reduce lead exposure and asthma. And through that work, I advocate, I testify, I speak with residents throughout Wards 5, 7, and 8 on the issues, on the priorities of our campaign, which is around lead in water and asthma triggers. I recently had my home tested by Barbara, and you'll hear more from Barbara later. Recently had my home tested and found out that there was a lot of pollutants that my family and I were being exposed to through the gas stove that we currently have in the home. My daughter, who's 25 years old, is asthmatic. We all in my house suffer from severe allergies, and just recently my granddaughter, who's 2 years old, has been to the hospital a few times for just the constant cough. And so that has me a little concerned right now, and I'm trying to figure out, is it due to the gas that's being emitted from the stove? Is it the outdoor air pollutants? What is it? But what we do know is that we do have some type of pollutants in the home that's triggering my daughter's asthma periodically. Through the testing that Barbara did, I learned that we should keep the doors open, ventilate pretty, good, so that the gas escapes the home when we're cooking. And also she tested my dad's house, and my dad, he's about 65 years old, and he never knew that gas stoves could cause his breathing, could harm him, not only harm him, but potentially kill him, especially with him being asthmatic as well. And so he was first to get his home tested, and every time he sees Washington Gas, he's like, it's another gas leak. How do I get my landlord to change out my stove, his radiator that's stationed in his home, and all of the things? And he's a renter. He's on public assistance and has a voucher, and so we've sent emails, we've sent the report, we've sent a lot of items to his landlord in hopes for them to transition their building from gas to electric. And so, you know, the education piece that Barbara has shared with tons of residents across the city has been very informative, especially to me and my family, and it has been impactful. And what I will say is I recently purchased a home which also has gas stoves in it, and I am going to look into seeing what incentives that I can qualify for to transition from gas because of all of the things I've shared with you all this evening. And so knowledge is key, and it's very important that we continue to talk about it to our family, friends, and especially the policymakers, to ensure that, you know, we can transition from gas to electric for healthier living. And so I want to start off by just speaking to Barbara and asking Barbara a series of questions this evening. And my first question, Barbara, well, first of all, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. I am Barbara Briggs. I live in Ward 3. I've lived in DC for about 8 years, and I work with Washington Interfaith Network and collaborate closely with Chesapeake Climate Action Network, with Sierra Club and Interfaith Power and Light in a project called Beyond Gas, which I've been working on it for about almost 6 years now, working on moving DC off burning gas to clean energy sources. And, you know, like you all know now, and like we know, we need to do it for the planet so that we have a habitable planet and an ecosystem that works. But the more that we got into this work, the more we began to realize that there's a very immediate concern that when you burn gas, you make pollutants that are terrible for human health, especially kids, older people, and vulnerable people. So, and one of the ways that we've worked is by doing this community science investigations of DC exposure. So that's part of the intro, is who I am.
Awesome. We're going to get there. We're going to tell folks a lot about it. But first, how did you first learn about the dangers of methane?
We were doing an investigation of gas leaks under the streets in DC, and we were doing it across all 8 wards of DC, and we had learned that, of course, methane, when it gets concentrated, like it gets, you know, there's a bubble of it under the pavement or in a sewer cap, and it can explode when it's at 5% of level, so that's dangerous. And we learned also that methane gas, so-called natural gas, when it concentrates, for instance, in a basement or an enclosed space, it can make you sick. It can make you nauseous, dizzy, faint, and essentially take the place of oxygen. So that's dangerous. And then we started reading and learning more about when you burn gas, it makes all kinds of pollutants. And so when we realized that this health aspect, you know, was also very important, we just started reading and reading and reading. So that's how I learned.
Great. And yes, you were one of the citizen sciences leaders that created the Cooking with Danger report, which shows that 63% of kitchens tested were above the EPA standard for 1 hour of nitrogen dioxide exposure.
Yep.
First, can you tell us why nitrogen dioxide is dangerous, and how does it get into our homes?
Sure. When you burn gas in your furnace or your boiler or your gas stove, when you burn it, it makes a number of different chemicals or pollutants that go into the air. So it makes carbon dioxide, it makes nitrogen dioxide, it makes particulate matter, soot, which can go into the lungs. It also emits benzene and a little bit of formaldehyde. So there are a number of pollutants. Nitrogen dioxide is one of them. And an important thing to know is that it's a normal product of burning gas. It's not a mistake. It's not the stove or the boiler being broken or dirty or acting badly. It's an emission that is normally produced when you burn gas.
Yeah, so the report that you helped prepare is focused on kitchens and gas stoves.
And I brought some copies for show and tell.
Awesome. How did you actually do the testing?
Sure. And I mean, you know this very well, but I brought another show and tell, which is the device that we use. This is a nitrogen dioxide. This is a detector for different, and it actually will work for different pollutants. This is the base, and then this top part, the air goes in here, it measures whatever it's supposed to measure here, and then goes out there. So this one is for nitrogen dioxide. And so what we did was we wanted to approximate a normal weeknight dinner. So we said, okay, we're not gonna push the envelope too much. We're gonna run the oven at 350, and we're gonna run 2 burners on the stove, and we're gonna do that for half an hour. And we're gonna measure the nitrogen dioxide. We're gonna turn on the machine kind of at the beginning, but we're gonna take measurements in 15 minutes and at the end at 30 minutes. And then we're gonna turn the stove off, and we're gonna wait 15 minutes to see if the nitrogen dioxide goes away. So we take a third measurement 15 minutes after the stove is off. What we found is that the nitrogen dioxide level goes kind of up and down and up and down, and it's not really predictable. It wasn't a smooth rise. But like you said, we tested 663 homes in DC and Montgomery County, and of those, 2/3 were above what the EPA says is a safe level for nitrogen dioxide for a 1 hour of exposure. So think playground next to a highway. So we're running our stoves in a kind of a not exaggerated big way for half an hour. 2/3 of those kitchens had dangerous levels of nitrogen dioxide. We also found that the 15 minutes after didn't do anything. Sometimes we had the highest levels at that 15 minutes after the stove was off and on. We tested a small number of kitchens at 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours after the stove was off. And we found that the NO2 went kind of down slowly. It was like half gone at an hour, another half in 2 hours, but there was still a fair amount of the air in some of these kitchens at 4 hours.
Wow.
So that is how we did it. By the way, in DC, it was 3/4 of the homes were above what the Environmental Protection Agency says is a safe level, which is 100 parts per billion. I mean, this is a little tiny molecule, but it's powerful. 100 parts per billion. And many of our homes were 200, 300, 400. I mean, my own house was 244 parts per billion, about 2.5 times what the EPA says is safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say that I think my dad's, when you measured his, it was like 300 and
It was
something.
high, yeah.
It was very high.
Yeah.
And him not knowing the effects of this and just talking to Barbara and learning more, he's like, I could have been killed myself in
He
here.
said,
He's like 65 years old.
And he's got a chess set that I mean,
Yes.
he plays chess, he's no slouch, but he didn't know, none of us knew.
None of us knew, and so it was pretty high for my home as well
Yeah.
when you tested it, but because of the exhaust fan that was right above and then the ventilation that we had, it went down pretty fast.
Yeah.
But my dad is in an older apartment building, and as I mentioned, he still has the radiators, the old radiators. It's a pretty old place, and so yeah, it was scary, and I worried about him all after that day. But your experience, what did other folks, what did you experience from other folks that had their home tested? What was some of the response?
God. I went into so many houses. I mean, it was really kind of a privilege. And you know, there were some houses in Northwest where the people just had ginormous kitchens, and some of those were fairly low and fairly safe. But I remember a couple of pretty nice newly renovated kitchens where the people had bought great big restaurant style gas stoves with double coils. And guess what? Being rich enough to buy a very nice stove doesn't necessarily keep you safe. Went into other kitchens, early career people like working on the Hill, and there's their first apartment, teeny tiny little kitchen, and concentration of like 400 parts per billion. Went into one house, who was a man, he was actually like a science educator, and he had an older house but had worked on it, and he had a gas stove which he was hoping to switch out, and I forget his level, it was maybe like 200 parts per billion, it was fairly high, and then he said, would you come up and test in my baby's bedroom, a 9-month-old child. We went up to the nursery and I put this thing in the crib, and the level of nitrogen dioxide upstairs in the crib was over 100 parts per billion. In other words, over what is safe. And I think, are you getting to a question about health impact and some of that?
Yeah, if you could tell us more about the results of the report.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we tested 633 houses. 2/3 overall had over what the EPA says is a safe level of nitrogen dioxide for 1 hour exposure, and that's running the stove for just half an hour. In DC, it was over 3/4 of homes, it was 77% of homes had over what the EPA said was safe, including mine. And what we know about nitrogen dioxide is that it is a pulmonary irritant. It's an inflammatory agent in the body. So it aggravates asthma, COPD, worsens lung disease, affects metabolic disorder. There are some studies that suggest that it may affect young babies' cognitive development, that when in utero or in the first year there's exposure, it can affect behavioral patterns at age 5. So it's not good. I mean, the inflammatory response in your body is not good. And there's some indication that the relationship with asthma in children is actually causal, because when you're pushing that kind of inflammation on it affects the immune system, and the immune response alters. Annie would know this stuff better than I do. She's a doctor. But anyway, it's problematic, and it seems as though it may be a causal aspect as well. A couple of years ago, there was a study sort of tweaking out the relationship between cooking with gas stoves and children, and I happened to catch one of the researchers on the radio. What they found, by the way, is that 13% of childhood asthma can be tracked directly back to gas stoves. And one of the researchers said that she could predict the pattern, the family's cooking pattern. She could see what the family's cooking pattern had been by the kids' pattern of asthma attacks. It's that direct.
Wow. And how long does this gas linger in homes?
It sticks around. We didn't do enough testing for enough period of time to really know the answer to that, but we know that it hangs around, especially in enclosed spaces. So ventilation becomes really important, especially in smaller spaces. And it goes with the air. So imagine your stove, it's hot air goes up, and that's why we saw it in upstairs bedrooms, because it just kind of goes up with the hot air.
One more question before we wrap up this session, and it's, has anyone who had their home tested went on to electrifying their home? And what was that experience like, if you know?
Yeah. I think we know that a number of people have already. Some of them have taken advantage of the Healthy Homes Act through DCSEU. So they're lower income people who were income qualified and actually got help to switch their stuff out. And they are, Sidra will be able to say more because she's working with some of these people. But from what we understand, especially given that program includes like wraparound, fix up your home, put in good insulation, put in good windows, fix the roof, and in some cases solar. Some of these families are coming back and saying, look, I have 0 utility bill. It's that good.
And we have folks here today from DCSEU that will speak to you all as well later in the program. Thank you so much, Barbara, and I don't know if we have time to hand it back over to Liz.
Okay, awesome. So, Barbara has a couple copies of the Picking Up Danger report if people are interested in taking a look.
And there's one other thing I'd like to say.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
We're planning for another phase of this testing. It'll be a winter heating system phase of testing. It'll start probably in October. We'll run it October through February to see what our gas furnaces and boilers and equipment are doing both inside and outside homes. So if people are interested, we are looking for participants and we're looking for investigators.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so we are gonna, like you said, hear some from DCSU and more about what you all can do, but for a little bit more to talk about kind of another story about the danger of the gas system, I want to invite Syra to come on up.
Sure.
Awesome.
Awesome.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. Would you like to introduce yourself and your background to the audience?
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Syra Day, and I live in DC in Northwest. I live currently in a apartment building that's managed by Borger Management. If anybody is familiar with them, they're a conglomerate management company that basically had a rapid expansion. I think a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. Anyway, so my building is a smaller building. So I am 24 and I work at an immigration lawyers association, and I'm here with CCAN and ILA. So anyways, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'll be asking you a few questions this evening, and I'll just jump right in since I've already introduced myself. So you've had a few you've had a few run-ins with the dangers of gas. Can you please tell us about what happened at your building?
Yeah, so in 2021, I moved in April of 2021 in the second floor, and I first had there's been 3 gas leaks, 2 of which that I've been impacted by. I do have a smaller dog, so luckily it's kind of one of those things where if you see your dog struggling, it's like one of the first signs. Anyway, so the most recent gas leak was last February of 2024, and that was the most emotional and just kind of the catalyst of finding CCAN, because it was so jarring that it felt like I needed to, 1, find help, 2, figure out what I could do to help the community. So anyways, this situation was I went for my sister's birthday dinner. I don't normally leave my dog at home alone, but he was home alone for like 2-3 hours. I came home and I mean, we've all been there. You really have to go to the bathroom, so you're just like ready to, get home and just like get ready for bed or whatever it is. Anyways, I didn't even think twice. I'm like looking at my purse, not even like looking what I'm doing, and I come up to my door and I obviously look at it to unlock, and my metal door is like completely broken down. And obviously, as a young woman of color in DC, you're thinking, who did I piss off that day? What if, somebody broke into my home, my dog's at home, I'm freaking out, I'm getting hysterical, and I'm obviously like screaming, crying, and not something I'm proud of, but it literally looked like I just got my head cut off, and I was just like trying to figure out what happened. So anyways, I was yelling for my dog. He was nowhere to be found. I didn't want to go inside the apartment because obviously if there's somebody in there, you don't want to go in. My neighbor, Jessica Lusty, who is also a part of CCAN, I'll get to my connection with her a little bit later, but anyways, I ran back downstairs across the street to her house because she's more like family than anything, and I was just like, I need help, screaming my head off as well because my dog is like my child, and just trying to figure out what happened. So we basically called the police, and they told us that there had been a gas leak, and the firefighters had come down and broken down every single door that was locked, or they couldn't find, or hear somebody or whatever it was. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, they were trying to protect whoever was inside, but it was also, there was no note, there was no notice from my management company. It was extremely jarring. I mean, I couldn't really sleep in the house that night. I mean, I still to this day am like, I have a camera just in case like firefighters do come back in. My dog is never home alone anymore. Anyways, so we finally went inside the apartment, and my dog was like right by my closet, just scared, and he just didn't want to come out. And that was just a heartbreaking feeling, as just like at a young age and on my own, and God forbid, like I had like a 15-year-old, and I'm, you know what I mean, and like you leave whoever it is at home, or even myself. So anyways, I basically created was a part of the creation of a tenants association for my building, because it keeps happening, and they found out that the problem was the dryers in the basement, and it's been the root of the problem for, I'm probably sure that there's been like 10 gas leaks at this point because of it, and it is because the dryer was like over 20 years old, and there's zero attention to it. They don't take it seriously. Like, we've had complaints for years and years and years, and they just don't take it seriously. So it kind of came to that point of like, who has to die to basically, like, is this a problem for the management? So anyways, that's what happened.
For you for creating the tenant association and holding at least them accountable as much as you can. I would also recommend filing complaints
Yeah.
too with
Yeah.
Department of Buildings because, it sounds like a violation. I don't know if there's any law in the book that you can have burning appliances just keep running, but, we may need to share, a little bit of the information with your landlord
Yeah.
about electrifying his building too. What reflection do you want to share with folks just hearing about how dangerous gas is or can be? And as you are just starting your activism.
Yeah, I mean, I've really only been a part of ZCAN for I think I guess it's already been like a year and a half now, so it kind of goes really fast. But my reflection is, my first thought was how many people are being affected and it's not being reported. I think that, like I said, like if my dog was a child or, God forbid, like my family was home, or, you know, to reference the first gas leak that I like had a part of or experienced, I was in the apartment, and it was more so my dog was falling asleep and I didn't understand why he wasn't like really waking up. I thought like I was looking up like, do dogs go in REM for like 15 minutes, you know? So I called my neighbor and she was like, get out and call the police. And we figured out that it was my oven that had never been replaced since before, you know? So it's just how many people have been affected or have passed away, unfortunately, or have reaped physical or health repercussions, and it's never being like noticed or cared for or reported. So anyways, that's really my biggest reflection, and it really breaks my heart because it's such a fixable problem, and it can be so simple as like changing one small building at a time or homes, or like you mentioned, like, you know, wealthier families that are renovating their homes, like that's a choice that you can make, and I think that that's a really important choice. So that's my reflection.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm sorry you're experiencing repeated gas leaks and things like that. And as an advocate and someone who has been doing this work for a little over 5 years now, I've heard similar stories, right, of people who's living in apartments, and this is specifically renters that's living in apartments where the landlords are getting their rent every month and not doing the needed or the required work that's needed in their properties. And so who's being exposed to these harmful situations are the tenants, not the homeowners. They may not even live in DC. And so I've heard a lot of stories like that. I've heard folks actually taking their landlord to court and continuously fighting only to get a handout, well, not a handout, but a small settlement compared to the long-term effects. A small settlement and having to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear these stories. My campaign, the campaign that I'm on, the campaign to reduce lead exposure and asthma, we've had some volunteers who are currently in court fighting against not just the gas situation, but other indoor pollutants such as mold that exacerbates their children's asthma and things like that. And so our campaign, along with other coalition partners, are standing with the residents to ensure that we hold government agencies accountable to doing what they say they're supposed to do, what's in their mission and what they're charged to do and regulate. But it takes each and every one of us, homeowners, renters, and the government agencies, to ensure that residents are living in safe and healthy homes. And I just thank you for sharing your story. I wanted to turn it back over to Claire. I don't know if we have time for questions or anything, Randy?
Let's do questions all together at the
Okay,
end. Yeah.
sounds good.
Thanks so much, Siobhan.
But thank you all.
Thank you.
sure of some of the different ways that gas in our homes makes us sick. And now we want to talk a little bit about, the different ways that we can do something about it. So I think to start, we kind of have 3 different angles to think about what we can do about it. The first is, how can you get methane gas out of your home? So if you do have a gas stove, if your home is heated with a gas furnace, these health impacts that Barbara's talked about, or the risk of gas leak that Syra talked about, could happen to those of us that have gas in our homes, like myself. So I want to invite our friends from the DC Sustainable Energy Utility up to talk a little bit about their programs, which help DC residents get their homes onto clean energy instead of methane gas.
Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to Stephen and Gwen for having us over. I'm Carolyn Tolentino from the DC Sustainable Energy Utility.
And I'm Brooke, also from DCSEU.
Yeah. And for those of you who have not heard of us, we're a nonprofit that helps DC residents and businesses save energy on their utility bills and electrify through a variety of programs. Today I want to talk to you about 3 of them. 2 are to help you electrify, and then an additional one is actually to add solar panels on your roof to help, to go along with this electrification. So we have the Affordable Home Electrification Program, which is income qualified, is specifically for low and moderate income residents in DC. And essentially any gas system that you have in your home, we're able to replace it for free. So that means HVAC, water heating, gas stove, dryers as well. We have 2 ways to help you qualify for the program. If you receive any kind of government funded assistance like SNAP or LIHEAP, your household would qualify. We also have income limits if the government assistance programs don't apply to you. And again, we cover all of this at no cost to the resident. We include electrical upgrades and heavy ups if they're needed. And then we really encourage people that go through this program to also go through the Solar for All program, which uses the same income qualification. So and we also have a combined application. So if you apply to one, you can automatically apply for the other. They're really great sister programs. We again encourage people to participate in both. It's super seamless. We do all the work for you. We have contractors that work with us and do all of this work on our behalf. And we have a bunch of flyers at this table over there. If you're interested, you can come by later and talk to us, ask us questions. We also have print applications if you would like to take one home with you and start that process right away. And I'll let Brooke kind of speak to our other program here.
So if you are not income qualified, we also do have residential rebate offerings that are available to anyone and everyone who live inside DC. There's a wide variety of appliances, many of which will fully electrify you. So if you are looking to upgrade your stoves or gas dryers or even your HVAC system, you can also electrify that way. And this is it's a rebate system. You can control what type of products that you want to get. It just has to qualify. We have a website that you can look up those models and see if you will qualify for different levels of rebates. We'll process it and mail you the check. So it is purchase first and then submit the necessary documentation, but then you can get almost up to 50%, sometimes even more, off that product back. So that's another way you can proceed with electrifying your home.
Yes. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we are sitting right on that by that table over there.
Okay, yeah. So I encourage folks, when we wrap up our programming, if you are interested in those programs, to go have a conversation and get your applications. I am now going to pass it off to Sidra and Jamoni to talk a little bit about how we can protect the funding for programs like DCSEUs.
Hello everyone, my name is Sidra Siddiqui. I'm a community organizer with WIN, the Washington Interfaith Network. So these programs that the DCSEU offers, those didn't always exist. We had to organize, we had to fight to create those programs. My work started around Healthy Homes about 3 years ago now, and it really started with listening to community members we were doing a lot of listening, mainly in Ward 7. We were hearing from a lot of folks who were saying they were paying a lot in utility bills. People were having trouble preserving their housing. They were feeling like they wanted pass, a lot of seniors who wanted to pass down their homes to the next generation, but felt like those homes would be a burden, not a blessing. That they had, furnaces that went out every winter, that they had holes in the roof, that, they just weren't sure if they could preserve that housing. So we were thinking through what a solution to that would be, while also beginning to learn more about the dangers of methane gas, and doing work with Barbara to see those gas leaks outdoors and the methane, the nitrogen dioxide emissions indoors. So we took all of that stuff that we were hearing and learning, and we, with the Beyond Gas Coalition, created the Healthy Homes Act, that program that is now offered by the DCSU through the Affordable Home Electrification Program. We did that by going to council, bugging all of the council members for a long time, and having folks come out and testify, say that they had high methane in their homes, say that they had this air pollution that they wanted, that they were concerned about, and that they couldn't afford to buy new appliances. That's why that program exists, because folks like y'all came out and testified and pushed for it. And the fight doesn't stop there. We gotta keep pushing for it, because all of this is funded through something called the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund. So that trust fund is a small surcharge on folks' utility bills for gas and electric. And what that fund is supposed to do is go directly into programs like this that help electrify, go to low-income folks. But what happened last year was the mayor took all of that funding out of the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund, and she moved it to the general fund to pay the district's own utility bills. There was another pot of money that was supposed to do that, but she took money out of the fund for low-income folks' electrification. And we fought and got more money put back in the Sustainable Electrification Fund, the SETF. We fought and put that money back. We're expecting the budget's gonna come out next week. From what we're hearing, the mayor's gonna do the same thing and take the money out of the program again. And if we don't put that money back in, then no program, no money for electrification. Folks who are renters and can't buy their own equipment in their homes, they're not going to be able to qualify for this program anymore. People who are homeowners and want to get a new stove, a new furnace, they're not going to be able to get that anymore. So what we really want folks to do, there's commitment cards at all of the tables. The papers that look like this. We want people to come out to the Department of Energy and Environment hearing. It's going to be, it's the second bullet point. It's going to be on June 13th. We really want folks to come out and testify. And you don't have to, be an expert in any of this. You can just come out and say, I went to a session and I learned that methane is dangerous, and I want to make sure that programs that continue helping folks get off of gas are funded. It can be as simple as that. But if you fill this out, then we can help, reach out and help you craft that testimony, make it really easy for you to testify. We've got talking points. So that's one way that you can get involved. The other way, there's 2 other hearings. I think Claire's going to talk about those. But the other way is, me or Barbara or one of our other citizen scientists can come and get your home tested. I really encourage you guys to do that. Like Barbara said, we're going to be doing a special round of heating systems. But right now, if you want your gas stove tested, we can definitely come out and do that.
Hi, I'm Jamani Overby. I serve as the DC Conservation Advocate with Nature Forward. I've been working in collaboration with all of our partners here today on the Beyond Gas effort, testing people's homes, getting out into communities. And I think there's this education piece, but there's also that piece where your fire is ignited and maybe you are upset about the impact it has on your family, or maybe it is you're upset about what the impact is on the climate. Maybe it's you being mad that the money is being taken from the funds that you're already putting in as a resident. Whatever it is, I want you all to feel empowered to speak up about it. And that doesn't just relate to this issue here. We also have provided you all with Advocacy 101 worksheets. So outside of the budget and maybe this issue, there are other issues that are going on in DC that you are facing within your own communities, that this is kind of like a guide for you to continue to raise your voice. And there are different hearings that the council has. We definitely want you to first put your foot forward with the budget hearing with Sidra, and this will be also opportunities for you for us to walk you through this process with Advocacy 101 workshops that will help speak with you and figure out what it is that you're worried about, what is it that you're concerned about, and on here it asks you what is the issue that you want to write about, what is something that you enjoy that is related to this issue. So say in this instance, we want to talk about gas in your homes. What is something that you enjoy related to this issue? Maybe you host your family over for holidays and you think about that 30 minutes of testing and how long it takes you to cook a Thanksgiving dinner. How much pollutants and exposure are you going to have in your system from them? How does the issue impact your family's life? I mean, we've heard so many different stories today about how it's not healthy it's a pulmonary irritant, but also cognitive delays, but also just the impact of having homes and looking through Black ownership equity through home ownership, and other opportunities for you to replace your appliances while also keeping your families healthy and safe. And then you can propose those solutions, and that solution is making sure that funding goes to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund, making sure that the councils continue to have conversations with agencies and community members and yourself to make sure that you all understand what is going on and that you have a voice in the process and the impact that is being made in your community. And then you also can ask for what you want. You want your community to have what? Great air quality, safe neighborhoods, whatever it is. That's what is in your power to be able to then share with your council members. You guys are DC residents. I know some of you are probably native Washingtonians and have been here for a really long time. So make sure you continue to raise your voice on this issue and other issues. And if you ever have any questions, on that other sheet with the table and QR codes are all of our contact information. As organizers and advocates, we want to help you continue to raise your voice. So thank you so much.
Okay, I got one more thing and then we're done talking at you. Okay, so we talked about how you can get your home away from methane gas. We talked about how you can make sure those programs still exist. But there's also just like, how do we get our whole city off of this methane gas system? You know, methane gas is in a bunch of people's homes, it's in a bunch of businesses. So it's not just about, you know, what we're doing in our own homes and how we make it possible for other people to do that, but it's also, you know, really about the system that we're looking at. So I have a couple slides here. DC's gas system is super old. It's been around for a long time, and those pipes are basically falling apart in the ground. And that lets out all these gas leaks. That's how, you know, you'll see Washington Gas out digging up the street. They're dealing with these old pipes. So obviously we need to make sure our gas system, while it's here, is as safe as possible. We don't want those gas leaks to happen. But we also don't want to keep investing in the system that we know is bad for our health. We need to think about how can we keep it safe for now while also investing in clean energy for the future. So Washington Gas has two different programs that address this problem. The first is just regular repair. So that would be, you know, a gas leak springs up in the street and it gets reported, and Washington Gas goes and they fix it. So they're actually fixing active leaks that are currently happening. That's good. When leaks happen, we need to address them. But then they have another program, and this is their accelerated replacement program. So this program isn't about addressing like real leaks that are actually happening. This program is just about replacing any pipes that might leak, which is every single pipe, because gas pipes leak. Like, that's just how these systems work. So this program is actively takes away from the amount of time that Washington Gas spends on their regular repair. So rather than investing in actually finding gas leaks and addressing them, they're just kind of replacing pipes in whatever way is easiest for them. And they do that because it's cheaper and easier for them. They make more money off of this accelerated replacement program than they do off of regular repair. And again, we did a whole session on the money part of it, so if you're interested in that, we'll send that link around to folks. That accelerated pipeline replacement program has long been called Project Pipes. It's been around in the district for over 10 years now. And Washington Gas is now asking for another phase of the program, which they've renamed to District Safe because they're trying to be cute with it. So we're calling it District Unsafe to be cute back. And both of these programs are the same thing. These are both Washington Gas's accelerated pipeline replacement program. District Unsafe doesn't fundamentally change what they're doing at all. And like I said, this program's been going on for over 10 years, and it's not fixed our gas leak problem. You know, we still have all these gas problems in our actual homes. We're still seeing gas leaks in our homes. We're still seeing gas leaks in the streets. Our district still has nearly 1,300 leaking gas pipes all around the city. And in 2023, which is the last year we have data reported of so far, we only saw a 0.16% reduction. And we're paying for this program. Every month on your gas bill, you'll see a Project Pipe surcharge. That money is going directly into this program, and it's getting that amount of reduction. Like, the program is completely failing. Washington Gas is investing in this accelerated replacement, which doesn't work, rather than actually finding leaks and repairing them. And it's putting a bunch of our money, our ratepayer money, into this system that we know ultimately we need to move away from entirely. So we want Washington Gas to actually invest in repairs and not these accelerated programs that slow down work ultimately. So what can you do about that? Well, like I said, this new version of Project Pipes called District Unsafe is up for approval. They want to spend $215 million of your dollars over the next 3 years on this program that has completely failed over the last 10 years. And they're asking, the Public Service Commission, which is our utility regulator, is asking to hear from district residents like you all. So there's 2 opportunities coming up in June. The first is on June 3rd at Anacostia Neighborhood Library. That starts at 5:30 p.m. And the second is on June 17th. That's downtown at the DC Public Service Commission hearing room, or online if you prefer to participate online. And again, that's at 5:30 p.m. So what these community hearings are, everyone that signs up gets the opportunity to come up, speak for up to 3 minutes about what you want to see. And at CCAN, we're helping organize people to show up. And we have lots of resources for you to talk more about Project Pipes. Just like the budget hearings, you can just show up and say, hey, I went to a session, I learned about methane gas, and I don't want to see this program continue in my city. And that's really all you have to say. So I'm going to call these out again. First, this sheet will let us know that you want to testify at either of these hearings. The first one is for the one on June 3rd, then we have that DOE budget hearing, and then there's the one on June 17th. If you fill this out and give it back to us, then we'll know to follow up with you and get you signed up for the hearing and any resources that you need to write your testimony. And then if you also just want to find out more, these sheets that have all these QR codes and links, this will let you save the date, give you the information, and if you RSVP through this, then we'll reach out to you also and send you all the information that you need to know. So I just want to say, I know sometimes it's hard, right, to get up in front of a room of people and talk about something you feel like you're not an expert in. But these community hearings are all about hearing from district residents. And the commissioners at the Public Service Commission, they spend all day long hearing from the gas utilities. They hear from the lawyers, they hear from all the people with all of the knowledge and the expertise. But who they don't hear from is people like us, people who are just living in the city, who have gas in our homes, who are just dealing with this problem every single day. And these hearings are some of the few opportunities that we get to make sure that these commissioners actually hear from the people of DC. So it's really important that we show up and that we, you know, tell our stories and why we care about it, and you do not have to know everything about methane gas to show up and say how you feel. And so if you do want to show up, myself, Isla, other folks will be around to give you all the tools you need to do a great job. So I really hope to see y'all on June 3rd or June 17th at these hearings. And that is what we have for our programming tonight. So thank you so much to everyone who came and all of our presenters. A round of applause for everyone who. It's just about 8 o'clock, so I don't want to keep y'all because I know the night is coming. But if folks do have questions, all of us would be super happy to answer them. And you can come raise your hand, ask us now, or you can come find us as we kind of get cleaned up. Yeah, question?
Completely different topic. Where do we recycle our cans tonight?
Yeah, if we just throw them in that red cart, the blue bag will be for dishes, and then we can just throw all the recycling in there too.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, another announcement. We have dish towels with information about gas. So everyone feel free to take one.
Reminder every time you cook. Reminder every
Okay.
time you cook.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
These towels. We just changed those.
Yeah.